Hey everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Bites. Welcome to this non-live stream premiere of my interview with Stellum Spirits. I'm super excited about today's interview. I'm sorry I couldn't do it live with you guys. I'm traveling today. But if you're watching the replay, hey, what's up? But if you're live in the chat, I should be there too. So hopefully say hi to Cliffy. Cliffy, say hi. All right. But I'm so excited to have on Will Schragis. Y'all previously saw him talking about Barrell Bourbon, Barrell Rye, and Barrell Dovetail. Well, now he's here to talk about this incredible new line of affordable, approachable bourbon and rye. So without further ado, please welcome Will Schragis from Stellum Spirits. Will, thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And I know, I'm not sure if you'll cut it out or not, but you said Barrell first. We don't want anyone to think that Barrell's not going anywhere. I get that question a lot. So that's the first question I'm getting these days is like, what's the relationship between the two? And the relationship is that Barrell Craft Spirits has become the parent company of itself and Stellum Spirits.
Gotcha.
And the two brands are made by the same people and have some of the same sensibilities, but they have sort of different ethos about what being a whiskey brand in America is like. And whereas Barrell was is so focused on what's the best thing that we can make right now without any worry about consistency, Stellum was like a 2-year-long project in figuring out how we could make something awesome and cask strength that is always the same. And it was only the sort of success of Barrell and a lot of the like lessons we learned from putting batches together that we were able to put something together for Stellum that we're like really confident is a consistent, awesome cask strength whiskey.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually going to say, so your title has changed since I last had you on the show. So previously you were the national director of Barrell Craft Spirits, but now your title is Chief Sales Officer and Chief Product Innovation Officer. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, is it the same thing?
I can talk about it. My day-to-day is exactly the same. So actually with Stellum, I am doing more of the sales role than I have ever done before because it's the first time that we've ever launched a totally new thing. And because of that, we've got like some street cred that we had to do years and years of like showing people that the whiskey was awesome with Barrell to get people excited. And with Stellum, we got to go like 0 to 60 really quickly.
I know it's popular. A lot of people are talking about it in lots of really good ways. So if someone's new to the brand, tell us a little bit about what Stellum is.
So Stellum is a American whiskey company using the belief from Joe that bourbon and rye should be at cask strength. But the reason Stellum is like loosely or not so loosely of the stars or outer space themed is because Joe was a Cold War baby and like it was the final frontier. And we wanted everything about Stellum to be like, how can we be the best whiskey company right now looking forward and not like, oh, we've followed the ancient recipe or ways of doing things. And that has to do with the way that we're blending it and the fact that it's a blend of straights and it's not from any one distillery. And that we're declassifying lots of different ages back down into a non-age statement, the way that I guess we've never really done that with Barrell. We've always had an age statement, but we've always had a variety of different ages. But also in the way that we treat each other and the way that we treat consumers and the way that we treat distributors, we want to work really well with people, but also we want to make it clear that like we're bourbon drinkers, but we also like watch The Mandalorian and no one in the company owns a horse. Too often I feel like the people that keep the lights on for a lot of spirits companies get ignored in favor of the people that look and act and speak the way that fit with the company's style. And like it is my personal mission and Stellum's mission to make sure that like the people that are into good cask strength bourbon, America's a very different place. People look different. People speak different. People drink different things, but a lot of people drink bourbon. and like Barrell is so focused on we're going to keep our heads down and we're going to make like the most interesting, best whiskey we can. And Stellum is like we're going to make the best whiskey we can at $54.99, and it's going to be just as tasty as Barrell, but it's not necessarily as complex as Barrell. It's like designed to be just deliver on what you like in bourbon and rye.
Well, that kind of ties into. I have a question from one of my patrons. My friend Adriana, she asks, why did you distinguish between the Barrell name and Stellum, like because some people expected it to be like Stellum by Barrell or something like that. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, so with everything in the whiskey world, but I think especially when you have a young brand, you have the romantic reasons for things and the business reasons for things. The romantic reason for the separation is that Stellum cares a lot about being the same. You have no idea how much work in sourcing and planning and tasting and testing again with different barrels and all of those things have gone into knowing we can recreate Stellum. There's, like I said, like we released it this year, but we've been working on it for 2.5 years. The business side of it is that we did not want people to think of Stellum as baby barrel. It's of the same quality. It is just focused on being the best in a tighter cannon rather than pushing the limits a little bit of blending the way that Barrell does. When Joe started Barrell, I think that it started with, I just want to make cask strength whiskey. I don't want to worry about other stuff. But what it really quickly became is like, I want to focus on making the best 79 or 84 or 99 or $120 bottle of whiskey, and like not going to go lower. And I'm just going to like really execute at that price. And Stellum is really wanting to execute, give them what they want, really good cask strength bourbon and rye at a different price. And so it's just a different way of thinking about it. And we don't want to hide the fact that they're made by the same company, but they're made with different blending styles and they're made with different ideas. They're trying to fit different places on your back bar.
Since we answered that question, let's go ahead and dive into the bourbon, shall we? Let's see how it is. So you mentioned that there's consistency here. So the one that I have here is 114.98 proof. Is it always going to be that same proof?
All of the Stellum blend is 114, or we call it core bourbon.
Okay.
Is 114.98. There are also a lot of single barrels in the Stellum world, and they are all at cask strength at different proofs. But this is until we get to the point where we have to change it for some reason from a logistics perspective, it'll be 114.98. So the profile is built in what we call the tension between 3 Indiana mash bills: the 36% rye bourbon mash bill, the 21% rye bourbon mash bill. Everyone thinks they like the 36%. Everyone likes the 21% more. Not everyone. But like that's the one that people go nuts for, just in blind situations. Sure. And then the like secret, I think, is the 99% corn, 1% malted barley mash bill, which makes a really one-dimensional style of bourbon, but it's such a fat, buttery note.
And that one's from Indiana as well?
Yeah, all 3 of those are from Indiana.
Oh, wow. I'd heard of the other 2, but I had not heard of that mash bill.
That makes up like 80% or so of Stellum. The other 20% is Kentucky bourbon and Tennessee bourbon. And so it is a proprietary blend in some ways, but it's a proprietary blend that we have a lot of barrels of, and we're constantly backfilling.
$54.99. That's a great price point. Was there a reason that you targeted that price point rather than something cheaper, or obviously not more expensive because then it would be in the barrel territory? Why that price point? I
know this sounds conceited, but we wanted to be the best bottle at the price. We felt like at $55, there's a lot of bottles that are the same thing as the $35 bottle, and you just pay more, and it's disappointing. And we wanted to be the bottle that's as good as the $100 bottle at $55, and we felt like we could nail that there specifically.
On the nose, for me, the first thing I get is like a citrus, or like I almost want to say like lemon zest or something. It's very not floral, but it's fruity, but like in a tropical kind of way. So I'm like thinking lemon, oranges, even maybe like pineapple.
Like when you do like you're peeling like a clementine or a tangerine, and it gets up at you.
Yeah,
that's what I get.
That's probably what I'm thinking. I said lemon zest, but something like a cocktail or something. But
it's not orange like a orange, like a candied orange peel. It's like right as it's like the fresh. Yeah, I think we're getting the same thing. What you get is lemon, I get is orange. Yeah,
there's like a baked element, like a baked good kind of note to it too on the nose. And I think I've already tasted it. I kind of cheated, but I think it definitely comes out on the palate too.
What I really love about the bourbon is it smells like a intriguing, complex bourbon. The front palate of it is like as classic bourbon as you could get.
Oh yeah, I was saying that the caramel, typical caramel bourbon note on the
caramel, like toasted oak, like nutmeg, like little bit of sort of exotic spice, but not a ton. What I find the thing that it has, and we talk about this a lot. We want Stellum to be exactly what people are looking for, and then a little bit better.
Gotcha.
And
that makes sense.
So the part on the palate to me that is like, is after you get the front palate that is just classic bourbon, it gets extremely wide and mouthfilling, and you get that butteriness of that 99% corn for a second. And so it's like bourbon, Stellum.
Yeah.
That is what I love about it. If you don't care about it, it's just really good bourbon. But if you do care about it, there's this moment that other bottles don't have.
I'm going to say I get a way more of like a toasted oak on the finish than I would have expected at this price point. I guess people's fear was, it's cheaper barrel, it's going to be young, but it does not taste, it tastes just as good as.
I mean, there's as old as 16-year-old barrels in this.
Really? Yeah.
So the majority of it is a 5-6 blend, but there's a lot of complexity built into it. I feel that fear because when any company innovates downwards,
Mm-hmm.
the assumption is it's like, okay, you're getting rid of the stuff you couldn't use for the fancy things.
Right.
But the reason Stellum is different than Barrell is we are not launching an offshoot of Barrell. It's its own idea. It's like the barrels, for the most part, are pipelined separately. It just feels like baby Barrell because of Barrell.
So question, I guess, related to that, you mentioned, these are non-age stated. Does that kind of, I assume that adds to the fact that you can make it a little more affordable, more approachable, because Barrell has always been very, clear about what goes into the blend. Do you think, is it because of that allows you to be at a lower price point? Does that help in any way?
Yeah. So part of it is that if you're a non-age statement, but you're a straight bourbon or a blend of straight bourbon, you're 4 years, you have to be 4 years old.
Right.
Because we have to blend to proof and to taste.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to reserve the right to use something that was 4 years and 10 months old if we have to at any point. And so the practical reason for having non-age statement is it allows us, and I know every company that's non-age statement say this, but it allows us the most freedom to do the things that we want to do. What I have learned from being a collector and an employee separately and together is there are moments where if you give people the information they're looking for, they're excited about the bottle based on their preconceived notions about what's in it and not about what you're trying to say about the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And we want people to appreciate it as Stellum bourbon, not Stellum 5-year-old, mostly Indiana bourbon.
Right.
The single barrels, which obviously will tell you the age statement if you want to know, but they don't have an age statement on the label either. And we may end up eating our words and putting an age statement on it at some point, but we had a lot of conversations about it, and what we felt like we want to take a stab at doing it the right way, and we're going to fight that fight as hard as we can. And I think people will get behind that because of the pedigree of blending that the company has. And because if you taste it, it doesn't taste like a young whiskey at all. It tastes like
I think the perception that I've seen just among, it's only been out, like a month now, but every time I hear people talk about it, it's always in a very, very positive light. But there were people that, that are barrel drinkers, and they're like, is this for us? Is this for people that are new to the brand? What do you want them to get from Stellum, as opposed to people that are new to the brand?
So I think there's all different types of people that are barrel fans, but I think if there's one sort of unifying characteristic of people that are really into barrel bourbon, it is that they're into bourbon. It's not just barrel. There are very few people that are identity barrel drinkers. If you like barrel bourbons, you like all different types of whiskey, because everything we make is different. And so we don't feel like we're leaving any barrel bourbon fans out with Stellum, because we know the 10, 15, 20, 30, 70, 200 other bottles that those people also have. And we want them to be excited about Stellum for the moments that Stellum is the right thing. Stellum is like the whiskey that, like, if I want to kind of quickly make myself a drink, like, it's designed for that, not because it's cheaper, but because it's designed to just do what bourbon does really well, do what rye does really well.
All right, well, let's go ahead and try the rye. So the rye is, what's the proof on this one? This is, that is not the rye.
It's 116.24, I believe.
Yes, 116.24. And this specifically does say distilled in Indiana. Now, is it all Indiana rye for this one?
No. So I think that the sample label you got says Indiana, but the product itself is Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Gotcha. So it's still a blend. So it's just
still a blend, yes. But it is like major focused on the 95 rye 5 malted barley mash bill from Indiana.
Well, you said the bourbon was also like a heavy influence on the Indiana.
And the rye almost more of a heavy influence, because that mash bill is so iconic, and like what people think of as good American rye is a lot of people. It's like it's just that mash bill. There's also a like much more corn and malted barley focused mash bill coming out of Indiana that is used in this, and then there's some Kentucky rye and some Tennessee rye, which are much fatter, less twangy, less herbaceous styles of whiskey. If you think about like the Old Forester rye, Jim Beam rye, like those types of Jack Daniel's rye, all of those, they're just like they're like slightly more balanced whiskey, not as like spice driven whiskey. And so what we really were going for with this rye is, if you are a 95.5 chaser, an herb head, but for rye, not for other substances, it's going to smell the way you want it to smell.
I tasted this earlier, and I wrote down some notes. The first thing I wrote on the nose, I said, it gives me a blast of everything I love about Indiana rye. So you literally just said what I thought. I guess question that goes with that, I mean, do you think Stellum uses a lot more Indiana product than most barrel products, would you say?
So there are blends of barrel that are very Indiana focused, and there's some Indiana single barrels in barrel, but Stellum is definitely more in the Indiana. If you like Indiana bourbon whiskey, and we all know what distillery I'm talking about. It's really driven by that. But we want, again, it's like Stellum. It's like, do you like that? This is everything you want. But there's just a little bit more going on because we have the capacity as a blending house to have all of the different sources, and we control all the blending ourselves and all the bottling ourselves.
Yeah, let's go ahead and try it. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
I will say it does drink a bit different than what you would expect if you're just drinking like the straight up.
Yeah, it smells like the 95.5, but it's fatter on the body. It's like it's caramely to me. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely sweeter. Like there's a lot more sweetness. You're not hit with like the very distinctive like spices of a typical rye whiskey. It's a lot more balanced, sweeter. And typically with a lot of ryes, I feel like they drink hotter than their proof point. This one doesn't. I don't think. I mean, no. What is it?
116. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it drinks right at that, and I think that's an excellent proof point.
Thank you.
I think it finishes a bit more like a rye, so it's not going to fool you. You know, you're not going to say like, "Oh, there's no way this is a rye." It's definitely a rye, but I mean, I'm a rye lover, so I think I appreciate that about it. But there are the characteristics that you typically get from the lower rye mash bills out there.
Yeah, last week I was in Dallas. I was kicking off Stellum with the Stellum distributor in Texas. Is called Victory, and they've got like a really cool, really experienced spirits nerdy sales team, and everyone was drinking. And everyone was like the body of both of these is so fat. And we ended up having this like joke about Stellum being a dad bod whiskey.
I can get behind that.
And that was like the joke of the whole presentation by the end of it. It was like an hour of talking about it, and people kept being like a dad bod.
Might have to reshape the bottle a bit.
And I think, yeah, it's funny because it's such a slim bottle, but the whiskey itself, it's like both of them are pretty like lean, focused, angular, clear on the nose, and then like they get really mouth-filling and fat in the middle. And I think part of that comes from being cask strength, part of it comes from being non-chill filtered, part of it comes from being just well blended, but also part of it comes from using really varied mash bills in all of them. And so you can take barrels that give you the spread and the body that would be flabby and hot otherwise, but then you like rein them in with like more tannic and more spice driven barrels. For Stellum, what's interesting is with Barrell, it'd be like putting together every blend to be that way. With Stellum, it's like putting together lines of pipeline of barrels to make sure that we can always get it over and over again.
Let's talk a little bit about the single barrels. I mean, there's something like I don't have one in front of me, but tell me about that program. You know, what's going to be different? What's going to set those apart?
The single barrel program is extremely simple. It's all Indiana. At least for now.
And the bourbon and the rye are both?
Yeah, both Indiana, and all at cask strength. The bottles, they're so cool. I wish I had one here, but we haven't started bottling them yet. It's the same looking bottle, but there's two bands above the label. And the first one has a name on it. There's three names to start. One is called Cygnus, which signifies the 36% rye mash bill. One is called Lyra, which signifies the 21% rye mash bill. And one is called Serpens, which is the rye, the 95.5. And those are all groups of stars that are important to Joe. And so it's named after sort of celestial bodies. After the name, there's a 2-digit code, a letter, and then a number for each one. And that has to do with the palletization of the barrels in our warehouse. So with like Cygnus, for instance, there's Cygnus A1, Cygnus A2, Cygnus A3, and then through 9, and then Cygnus B1, B2, so on and so forth. And the reason we do that is like once we're finished selecting barrels in a season or from a set of barrels, we will move the cluster name and we'll start again. And so you can know from your barrel, like when it was selected, what group it was selected from. Also, you can, if you really like a barrel, even though every single barrel is different, you can like see who are its siblings and who are its cousins within the family. And then also there's the second band it says selected by, and it who wants it. Some of them we're just going to bottle without selected by. So it's like just single barrel Stellum, but most of them will be a selected by, or we'll give it a name, or a distributor will give it a name. We want to be able to name it in a way where you can say like, I like this one. It was palletized with that one. I also like that one. Like I'm going to try this one because it's the same letter. We are designing the single barrel program with the people that have made single barrel bourbon, really the hottest part of the American whiskey world right now, in mind.
So these labels, are they going to be able to go on the website and find out like what exactly that is? Or is it just going to be kind of like, if you know, you know?
There will be a lot of information on the website. We're still really getting a handle on like what type of information and what type of giving it to people do we need to do. I think what is tough for us with Stellum is it's really easy for us to default into what has become the easy way of communicating for us, which is, you know what all the lingo means, here's all the lingo.
Sure.
And what we're trying to do with Stellum is to balance that with, you don't need to be the person in your group of friends who's obsessed with whiskey to have this be your favorite brand. So we're still learning from a like communication standpoint, like where do we pick our shots about like the intimidating details versus the like, let's tell you what's really important.
To wrap up, I mean, what do you hope that people will take from this new brand, and I guess where do you see it going in the future? Because I mean, it's brand new, like it just launched within the past couple months. I mean, I'm excited to see where the single barrel program takes it. But what do you hope for it?
I think first of all, there is a part of Barrell Craft Spirits where we're not gonna let it get too far outside of our control without it being really good. I hope that we can keep up and we can like have it be really big, really fast, and really good. Mm-hmm. But if we have to keep it to the 13 states we're in, we're going to keep it to the 13 states we're in until we're ready to go into other places. I really hope that people understand what we're trying to do with the attitude of the brand. And we're not trying to say that this is a activist brand. What we are trying to say is like the age of bourbon being an American whiskey and then having a picture of what an American looks like is over. Anyone in the world who likes bourbon and anyone who thinks of themselves as an American, like this is an American whiskey for a evolved and like different thinking group of adults. You can see I don't stumble with my words that often. I have a shtick for sure, but I don't even know exactly how to communicate that feeling yet because it means so much to me personally that like I want everyone to love Barrell for being the best whiskey in the country, and I want everyone to love Stelm for being awesome and like acknowledging the reality of what's going on. That would be my hopes and wishes for the brand. I have this pet project I'm working on right now that I'm not telling a lot of people about, but if someone reaches out to me that has a connection to a bar that wants to participate, I'm all ears. We are finding somewhere between 12 and 36 picks with people that we think are awesome around the country and asking them to let us hold back a case. And then we are making mixed packs of picks to like find one bar in each major city that wants to have like 1 or 2 bottles of like 30 people's different picks available at the bar. And we're only able to do it if we can plan it before we bottle it, because then we can hold it back and we can like legally get it to everyone. Yeah. But we've been wanting to do that with Barrell for a long time, but because of the way it's bottled, it's really hard to like, what's the starting point? And with Stelum, like we haven't started bottling the single barrels yet. So like the starting point is right now. So hopefully in the next, 8 to 12 weeks, there will be 4 to 12 bars around the country that have like a whole page of single barrel picks from Stellum.
There's a couple places in Los Angeles and San Diego I can give you some clues on that have a big whiskey culture. So I'm sure you're probably already aware of some of them. But
yeah, no, and it's about like bars that are willing to have that and believe in the brand right away, and also bars that are willing to do the inventory because it's a pain in the ass.
And also bars that are open because we're still not quite open in Los Angeles yet.
Yeah,
we're working
and
on it.
I say that like everything's fine. It's going to take a while, but we also see like people are planning for the country reopening to some extent, and
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for talking about these spirits. I'm glad. Now, you said they're available in 13 states. Are they in California yet or no?
They are in California. So right now, and I say 13, but I should count again because we made some changes.
Okay.
Arizona, Nevada, California, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Georgia, Maryland, Delaware, DC. It will be Kentucky and Illinois in the next month or two. Well, hopefully Arkansas too.
That's very cool. I mean, that's a pretty nice, decent rollout. I mean, for being so new to this. So I'm excited. I think they're both solid products. I do recommend both of them absolutely at the price point. I'm definitely looking forward. That's why I asked if they're in California, because I'm definitely going to buy bottles of both.
Thank you.
I think they're definitely ones I want to add to my bar cart. And I think it's a cool story too. I'm very happy to have you on talking about it. And thank you so much again for doing this interview and talking about it.
Yeah, and also if anyone who's not in one of those states is interested, if you go to stellumspirits.com, we have a retail network that can get a bottle to pretty much anywhere, we think now. So we'll be able to ship it for sure. Well, not us, but other people.
All right, well, cheers, Will. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so cheers, man.
Cheers.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I am so excited about this whiskey. It's such a cool idea. It's definitely something new to the industry, but overall, it's damn good whiskey. I can't wait to try the single barrel. So let me know, have you tried Stellum? Is it available in your area? Please let me know, especially if you've had a single barrel. Let me know how it is. I can't wait to get my hands on one. I will definitely be picking up bottles of both of these and the single barrels to come. But until next time, this has been Bourbon Bites Whiskey Reviews with the gaming twist. Cheers, and I'll see you guys next video.